everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Grandma. Today I'm going to be making peach cake. This recipe is meant for muffins, blueberry muffins. I'm changing the fruit to peach. Remember in my previous video I said in baking you have to be very precise. When it says 1 cup of flour, it's 1 cup of flour. 1 teaspoon of sugar, it has to be exact. But for things like this, when you're using fresh fruit, you can change the fruit. Today, instead of blueberries, I'm using peach, fresh peaches that I have cut up and put into a bowl. So the first thing we need to do, and I'm going to be doubling this recipe as well. You see my great big huge mixing bowl here. I'm going to be doubling it because I have so many peaches that I needed to use that were starting to go bad that I wanted to cut up. So that's why instead of making muffins, I'm going to make it like a crumble so we can have peach cake. So it says for half a cup of butter, doubling it, that means it's 1 cup. So in that goes in our bowl. And I have pre-measured things, excuse me, I have pre-measured things today and pre-cut up the peaches so it goes a little faster and everything's easy. So this butter is already very soft because I use margarine, I don't use butter, and it's out of the fridge. And you just mix that up till it's creamy, which it pretty much is if you use the margarine that's in a container, not the stick butter. So then I needed to add 1 cup of sugar, which is 2 cups. I'm adding a little bit less because my peaches are very sweet, so you can reduce the amount of sugar. So what you do is you pour that in with your butter and you mix it all the way. You mix it nice and wet until it's nice and condensed and mixed in. You don't want any lumps of sugar. You don't want any grains, granules. It will dissolve actually later when you put your next ingredients in, but it's always best to follow the recipe, especially with baking. It has to be a lot more precise. So there's my oven timer. I just turned it on to preheat it. Up to 350 preheated. The book says 425, but my oven would burn them in 5 seconds. I have an energy saving oven, so I can keep it at 350. Okay, so this is the sugar and the butter all nicely creamed together. So now we're going to add the eggs. You add those one at a time. It calls for 2 eggs, so I'm using 4. So there's 1. And it's a good idea to have a little garbage bowl next to you. That's what I did when I cut the peaches up. I cut off all the ends and the bad parts and you just have a little bowl so you can just save on the mess. So there's 1 egg in, and already it's getting creamier just from adding the eggs. There's 2. These are our chickens. See the color of blue, how pretty blue that is? That's from our chicken Tornado. She finally started to lay again. She was in brood for a while. Poor thing thought she was going to hatch an egg. We might let her eventually. My son just bought a farm, so we might let both of them hatch some eggs for them so they can have chickens on their farm. Alright, so here's egg number 3. And this is a pretty easy recipe. It's a little bit different than my other muffin recipe. I have a book on just muffins, and I've tried it a few times, and it's a really good recipe book. The recipes are straight, easy forward, not a lot of ingredients. Okay, and here's egg number 4. This is from our other egg, our other chicken, kind of a peachy color. There we go. Thank you, Judith. Judith we got her name from The Walking Dead. Unfortunately, we lost Michonne. She's a chicken. She passed away. But, you know, circle of life, it goes on. So there you go. There is the butter, the sugar, and the eggs all nicely creamed up. Let me see if I can show you. There we go. All nicely creamed up in the bowl. I'm using a larger bowl. I usually use my glass bowl so you guys can see better. But I needed a bigger bowl because there's a lot of ingredients to go in. Okay, so we creamed the butter. We added the eggs one at a time. Now we're going to beat in the vanilla, baking powder, and salt. So it calls for 1 teaspoon. We're doubling it. Remember what I told you about the cap? You can measure exactly a teaspoon of vanilla, and it goes. So we have to use 2 because when you're doubling, this is where your math comes in that you really hated taking at school, but you need the math to know how to double things. Okay, so 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So we need 4. There's 1. We're going to do this again. It scrapes out the thing, the top, the lid. It's got a nice little scraper, so it makes it nice and even for you. there's 3, and there's 4. Okay, and then it calls for 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, which that means it's a half. You have to know your fractions. So get your salt shaker, and you get half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to mix that in. Oh, good morning, Dino Brody. There he is, awake, just waking up, you lazy thing. 10 o'clock here. So we're mixing in the vanilla, the baking powder, and the salt. So the next thing you do is you mix the berries into the batter. So here is, now it was called for 2 cups of peaches, so 4 cups. There is all my peaches all nicely chopped up in the bowl. We're just going to pour them all right in there and mix that in. You have to follow the directions pretty much bang on when you're baking. It has to be a little more precise. This looks pretty good right here. I just love to just eat this just like it is. But you do have to cook it first. So there we go. That is your batter with the peaches, eggs, butter, sugar, and vanilla and baking soda powder. Baking powder will make these rise. This will rise up real nice. So now the next thing you do, we fold in half the flour, then half the milk, and then add the flour and the milk. So it calls for 2 cups of flour. What we're doing 4. You remember the tip I showed you when you're using a measuring cup that has a lip on it? That is for wet ingredients. Let's see if I can get that closer for you. That's for wet ingredients. I did measure out my flour and put it in here. Now I measured 2 cups with my 1 cup measuring cup, and you see it is not quite up to the 2 cup line. It's just about 1/4 of a cup difference. There's the 16 ounces. That's where 2 cups are. And it's just a titch lower than 2 cups. That's why I told you when you measure with wet or dry, you have to use a proper measuring spoon. Now, if I would have measured that right up to the 2 cups, I would have been putting too much flour. So there's our 2 cups because I measured it with my 1 cup measuring cup and just put it in here because it was easier. I'm putting that in. It's sticky on the bottom. I measured my peaches out, so it was a little bit wet. So now we're going to do half. That was 2, so we need to mix all this in. Just like this, real carefully. You stir. You don't want to overmix muffin batter. You overmix muffin batter and you get bubbles and you get holes. When you open up a muffin, there's a big hole where the bubble popped. And that's why you just gently want to stir until it's blended. Okay, so that is half of the flour. Now it calls for half a cup of milk, so you know the drill, 1 cup of milk. Again, we're going to use the measuring cup with a lip because that is more accurate. So we're going to I'm going to measure out the whole cup, but we're only going to put in half a cup at a time because this is what this recipe says to do. Half the flour, half the milk, half the flour, half the milk. So there's 1 cup. I'm going to pour in, there we go, boy, I got that perfect. Half a cup of milk. Stir that in. And then we're going to put in the rest of the flour and then the rest of the milk. This is like one of the easiest recipes. It's a little time consuming prepping the fruit. If you want, you can probably use frozen fruit that's already prepped for you. That would be fine. It would probably work the same. So now 2 cups. I already put 2 cups in. So there's half these small containers. I have to do this in 1, half. My 1 cup measuring cup does not fit down in my containers. I got my canisters. I have to do it with a smaller one. Okay, and there's my last 2 cups of flour. So I called for 2 cups, we needed 4. Double the recipe. This won't last long in my house. I will give some to my son to take home for him and his girlfriend at their new house. I'll give some to my daughter and my other 2 grandsons. And my daughter that lives upstairs. We'll all have a share. And it will be gone, I'd say a day or 2. Won't last very long.
Hey, Grandma.
Hey, Dino Brody, how you doing? Just making a peach cobbler here for dessert. I'm getting on the last bit of ingredients. There's,
What are we having tonight?
I don't know. I just made a batch of spaghetti sauce out of the tomatoes that were left in the garden. So if you'd like, we can have spaghetti. I'm not sure yet. We'll
Can I
think
just
on
say
that
one thing?
Sure.
I hope you guys, if you didn't, on Dino Brody's channel or mine, see the live stream. I'll be doing sometimes a live stream every now and then.
It was pretty cool. You did a good job. Okay, so now that is all I need to put in here. Now it says obviously to scoop the batter into muffin pins, but because I'm not making muffins with my batter, I've got a nice big pan here, all prepared, all ready to go. I'm going to pour it all into my 9x12 cake pan. There we go. And just to let all of you know, I did let them know what I started a new YouTube channel this morning. It's called Storytime with Grandma. So you can go check out my first 2 stories. I made one just a little bit ago before I started this video. So you go on and enjoy having your children read too. Like and subscribe. Ours, mine, Dino Brody's channels, Cooking with Grandma, and Storytime with Grandma. So there we are. Boy, doesn't that look yummy, Brody?
Yeah.
It looks good. You like peaches, right?
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, this is with those donut peaches that Papa bought. I'll show the camera what this, if you've never seen a donut peach. There is a donut peach. It looks pretty much like a donut. They taste exactly the same, but they're very expensive. I don't know why. I guess because they're a specialty shape. They're grown differently. So what is good about these is that you go and you get them on the reduced bin at your local grocery store, and sometimes they're a little, they get 2 or 3 of them that have some spots on them or a little bruised. That's what I used in my peach cobbler. So there it is, all done, all into the oven. I will show you what it looks like the next time we are together on my channel. You all have a good day now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.